Hey everybody, it's Jason Blaha here. You guys know what time it is? Time to talk about current events in the online fitness community. And for those of you who like these type of videos, please remember to click like down below. It would be greatly appreciated. Guys, go ahead and click it. Just click it. It's right there. It's easy. Thank you. So, over to the point. One of my subscribers linked me a video that I actually thought was good from Alex over at AlphaDestiny. Now, we've had our beefs in the past. I've certainly disagreed with him on a lot of things in the past. I've been very critical of him in the past, but he was also a young, silly child years ago. He's now been training. He has a lot more training experience. He's more well-read. He's more knowledgeable than he was a few years ago. And like with anyone else, as we learn and evolve, you have to give people credit for how they improve as a person, how they improve as a teacher, how they improve as a coach, an athlete, whatever else. That's the reality. You don't hold people's smaller mistakes against them when they've now corrected them and they're doing better. That's just silly. That's petty. Adults don't do that. So, well, they do, but only petty people do. My only criticism of what this guy is doing at this point is the fact that he will not apply the knowledge that he now has and presents. He won't apply it to lower body lifts. He just flat refuses, and he still does just silly stuff for his lower body. He refuses to apply the knowledge that he actually put forward in this video, which was actually good, to his entire body. So he's now half right. He's half right. He's right for the upper body. How's that? So he's not really true strength training yet, because if your legs are weak, you're not strength training if you have legs. But the video itself, pretty good. Basic strength training misconceptions. And one of the things that he brought up is something I've been trying to say, that we've been talking about, and that's this idea that people have that strength is just your heavy, low-rep lifts. It's just your heavy, low-rep lifts. And it's just not true. And no serious strength athletes, let me rephrase that. Most serious and elite strength athletes don't train just low reps. And that's kind of the point. He talked a bit about both block periodization, concurrent periodization, things like that. Now, for me, I fall into the concurrent periodization camp. And I think something that Alex may not have realized yet, because he hasn't got deeper into the trenches, those are conflicting things. Those are two different schools of thought that butt heads in a professional environment. And I would say we're almost at a point where people kind of pick a camp there, because that is a very, very serious rivalry. That is almost the equivalent of major political parties inside the strength training world. And it has to do with the fact that there's a lot of money involved. There has to do with selling programs. There's rivalries involved in that. And I generally hold the opinion that, particularly for drug-free guys, concurrent periodization is going to be better. I legitimately agree with a lot of the data that shows that a lot of the linear block periodization was built around, to some extent, timing of oral steroids and stuff. It really was. Whereas in concurrent can work well for both groups of people. I feel like if you want a more diverse system, concurrent is generally going to be the way to go for that. I think you're going to do better for people who both are on and off stuff. And I do think that the linear periodization, and this is my opinion, I don't think it's as good. And that's just how I feel about it. But I'm also not making a living selling linear programs, which a lot of people are, who are big, big proponents of it. So something he should be aware of, though, that the whole block periodization thing, that's a different school of thought. And he personally, Alex, is promoting the same systems and ideas that I generally use, which is going to be things like concurrent type periodization, conjugate-based training. And I honestly believe it's the way to go at this point. But he did bring the point of most serious strength athletes are doing tons of volume training in addition to the low reps. And it's a perfect example of how I train. I have max effort days, which I lift to a heavy single every week. Then I have dynamic effort days where we use lightweight for speed and power. It's still low reps, but it's speed and power, high sets. And then on the back end of both of those, I do large amounts of volume accessory movements, which is mostly 10s. And people say, well, how much is that? Is it where you're doing a couple sets of 10? No, I do up to 15 sets of 10 on barbell movements in a workout after doing the heavier stuff. That's normal. That's normal. And then we do conditioning work on the off days. That's very normal in the strength training world. That's common. Like for most people, if you think of what we would think of as currently traditional powerlifting methods, which means what champions started doing 15, 20 years ago, because now every traditional only goes back that far. We're not dealing with what someone was doing 50 years ago anymore. For most of you guys out there, if you were still in diapers and that's what people were doing, and most of the champions were doing, that is more traditional at this point. That's pretty much the way people have been doing things for a while at the elite levels. That is one of the single most common systems out there, is the whole conjugate type method. It's one of the most popular powerlifting training methods that exist. And he's right, the max effort training is critical. Max effort method is critical, and unless you're, again, doing some sort of Bulgarian training, which I've done on camera, unless you're doing some sort of peaking program, you're only doing some really, really heavy maximum work. The majority of your work is going to be for volume, because we do need the overall volume to get thicker and bigger, right? We need that. And conversely, as he pointed out, if you're not on gear, pure training volume alone is not going to get you to maximum size. So even the guys who are like, well, I just want to be really jacked, well, without anabolics, doing nothing but 10 rep sets isn't going to do it either. Okay, you do need to build strength to go with it. And it has to do with how these modalities feed each other. And then if you're doing any sort of like concurrent model of training, you're probably training all of them within the same weeks. You're training them just in different phases through your week, different parts of your training week. And if you're doing more of the block periodization, you're probably running entire 3-week blocks of doing entire rep ranges. So this is part of strength training. Strength training isn't a single rep range. These things all carry over. One of the other points he raised was, about body fat. The fat power lifter stereotype isn't based on reality. Okay, that is based upon people seeing the strongest people in the world in unlimited weight classes. Okay, that is not how most strength sports are structured. I mean, for example, let's take World's Strongest Man. Most of those guys are just big, fat, blubbery tubs of lard. They're really tall, they're strong, they built a lot of muscle, but most of them are fat. But now you're starting to see a few guys coming in who aren't fat, who are athletic, who are fit, who are actually doing surprisingly well. But when you step down out of that unlimited weight classes, it lets you be over 400 pounds. And you start going into weight classes, even in strongman, which is the majority of people competing in that sport. Tons of them have abs. Same thing in powerlifting. You go to a powerlifting meet, people see some of these really fat dudes, which comprise a tiny percentage of powerlifting. And then they have this misconception that, oh, that's powerlifting, until you go to a real meet. Even a national level meet, and then you get there and realize that half of the dudes up there competing have six-packs, right? The reality is not the stereotype. That's not the reality. And as far as fat goes, the only lift that having a belly helps you on, as he rightly pointed out, is the bench press, right? Having a fat gut will help your bench press. It will hurt your deadlift. So does it make you a better power lifter? Not really. It'll make you a better bench presser. Right? Be a better bench presser. Absolutely. It'll make you a worse deadlifter, though. For very similar reasons. It has to do with leverages, ranges of motion, stuff getting in the way. You want stuff to get in the way on the bench press. You don't want it in the way on the deadlift. The next point he made in there was about cardio. I don't want to use the word cardio. We should use the word conditioning, because I'll go so far as to say, based on my experience, traditional cardio, if done incorrectly, absolutely can hurt your gains. It's not worth it, in all honesty. People would think of a certain cardio like lifts and things like that. But real conditioning work, general physical preparedness, that is programmed correctly into the rest of your training. Again, I do it on camera every week, right? I film metabolic conditioning work on camera. It will enhance your ability as a lifter, as an athlete. Yes, it'll make you healthier. That's part of it. But it increases your work capacity. So if you have good conditioning, the downstream effect is that eventually it will make you stronger. Because if you have better conditioning, you're in better shape. And in better shape, we don't mean bodybuilder definitions. Let's get away from it. Let's get over to strength and conditioning world. Sports. What does in shape mean? It means you have good cardiovascular conditioning. That's what in shape means. It doesn't have nothing. You could be morbidly obese and have good conditioning. There are strong men and NFL players who are fat who have great conditioning. And there are plenty of ripped bodybuilders with zero conditioning. So lose that word. Lose that word. There's a history behind why they adopted that word incorrectly. But that's neither here nor there. over to the point. If you're in shape, you can do more work in a single training session. You can recover faster between sets so that you have a higher work density, and you can usually do slightly more training volume and still recover from it because you're in better shape. Well, doesn't that equal more gains? Doesn't that equal more muscle mass? And if you have more muscle mass, you're going to be stronger because size does equal strength. You cannot disconnect the two without drugs. Drugs are the only thing that lets you as an individual person separate size and strength in either direction. For you as a person, as an individual, I'm not talking about comparing one person to the next. For you as a person, you have to connect the two. They're inseparable. There's going to be at least an 80% degree of overlap that you cannot remove no matter what you do other than drugs, implants, things like that. That's the only way around it. So if you get bigger because you can do more work and more work density and recover from it, you're going to get stronger. Conditioning is actually important for strength training, and usually the strongest lifters all around, right? The strongest all around lifters tend to actually be in really good shape. They tend to be in good shape, and there's a reason for that. So not only is cardio, or at least conditioning work, metabolic conditioning, general physical preparedness, not only does it not kill your gains, in the long term it will enhance them. So he's right on that. All right, guys, but that's really all I have to say on that today. I hope it's been informative, and I will talk to you guys next time.